Hello, everybody. We are here today with Shyam Shama, a musician from Kenya. We are recording in Zoom and getting ready to log in Facebook Live broadcasting. Let me get into the Facebook Live. We are now accessing Shyam's information event. Here we go, live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where in the world you are at the moment. Today is Sunday, 16th May, and Sean, our guest from Kenya, is our number 17 collaboration in this 30-minute series with Wanayran Angerer in Moving Cultures, Cultural Stopovers, Wanayran Alvarez Angerer. Today we are going to celebrate music, not only from Kenya, but from Africa. And Jambo, Jambo Bwana, habari gani, nzuri sana. So, Jambo, Chan, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to see you after so long.
Yes, and also very, very happy to be here with you today, exchanging experiences and exchanging knowledge.
Yes.
Chan started his career as a musician from a very early, tender age. And we're going to hear from him about this journey. So, how is that the guitar has become your companion for such a long time, Chan?
It's a very, again, it's a very long story. So, when I was a kid, I moved to Kenya when I was 4 years old. And basically my cousin was taking piano lessons and I tagged along for one of them. And I think music kind of captured me. So I started playing piano. I was very lucky to go to a very musical primary school. So we were encouraged to do more instruments, sing in the choirs, play in orchestra. So I started playing drums, percussion, trumpet, guitar. And I think from when I was about maybe 10 years old, I started playing guitar. And eventually I got a very good teacher in Nairobi who introduced me to, of course, Congolese music, other African music, jazz, bossa nova. And from that, I got the interest, like following up with the Congolese guitar style, which I think is just incredible. And it's the sound of sub-Saharan Africa. If you go to Zimbabwe, Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, Uganda, it's that sound. And so, long story short, that's how I got up.
Yeah, and you said that when you were 4 years old, you moved to Kenya. From where?
So technically, I was actually born in London, but my parents and grandparents and everyone are from Kenya. So I lived there for 4 years with my mom, went to Kenya, grew up there, studied there, worked there, and then 2 years ago, I moved back to London.
Yeah, so you have an Indian background and you've been educated and raised in Africa and with European background at the same time. So you are like a very multicultural person. Yeah.
In a way,
Yeah, I think in the reality, you really are a multicultural person. And this is exactly what Moving Cultures is about. It's about promoting unity and diversity, how you can put together into a common concept, different trends and different backgrounds. Chan, you were very instrumental in your high school, putting together musical and cultural gatherings. What can you tell us about that?
So I think, as I said, our primary school was very musical. And I spent a lot of my time, both in and out of school, learning instruments, playing and so on. When I was about 10 years old, I decided that I was going to be a musician. And I never changed my mind. So even when I was in high school doing the normal studies and so on, there was a big focus on music. And unfortunately, our high school wasn't as musical. Mm-hmm. And I think because a lot of us as kids were forced to play instruments. Mm-hmm. When we got to that age where, it wasn't necessary anymore, a lot of people just dropped it. So of course, music brings people together. So some of the first big events I kind of did in high school was for Playing for Change Foundation, which you can find online. They do fantastic videos. They bring together musicians from all over the world. And so they do this thing called Playing for Change Day, where musicians all over the world organize concerts or busk or whatever. And the money they raise goes to the foundation, and the foundation builds music schools around the world. For less privileged kids. And so basically I did that, two of those concerts, I think it was 2012, 2013, getting bands together, organizing the events. After that, I did an internship in Eric Wainaina's studio. So I got more and more into music. And I think by the time I should have been doing my A levels, I was fully into the music world. That even though I was still studying, literally I would just go and sit and play music the whole day. And so I actually didn't end up finishing high school. I decided to leave a year before I graduated, and then I fully went to music.
Yes, so you did like a sabbatic year, and then you came back to finish your high school.
No, I never, I never finished my high school.
You didn't. You never finished your high school. So you decided to drop out. You decided
basically,
to actually switch into the musical scene.
Basically, I felt like in our schools and in our culture and in our society, you don't get asked if you're going to university. You're expected to go, and so it's literally, you finish high school straight into uni. At that age, a lot of people also don't know what they want to do. And even though there's a kind of illusion that you're free to do what you want in life, it's kind of, accountant, doctor, lawyer, engineer, there's kind of a scope of acceptable options. If you say, you want to go and be an artist, you want to be a musician, a dancer, you're really going to have to fight to do what you want. So I think for me, it was a good experience because I didn't, as much as I could play instruments and stuff, I still didn't have the understanding of music and the experience that I wanted to have. And so from there, I started teaching, performing, meeting different people. And I think for the next like 5 to 6 years, up till about now, I kind of had that experience of, performing, running bands, teaching, producing, and so on. And then now I'm in a position where I can go to uni and get the most out of it.
So do you agree with me that if you have a very intense artistic orientation, would have been better for you to finish secondary and then go into an art school and do like a bachelor in arts instead of doing just a regular high school?
If I had the choice, I would have only done my O levels and gone to like a conservatoire or something full time and study music. Exactly. But I also say like we're kind of expected to study. When you're done studying, you study in one block and then you start working and then you grow old. Whereas I think things are not as linear. So if you feel that you need to take time to find out exactly what you want to do, even if it's 2 years, 3 years, have different experiences. In the end, you need to really be sure what you want to do in life so you can live a happy life. Because if you're unhappy, even if you're making a lot of money, you're not going to be happy. You're going to make the world a worse place. So I think it's that thing, if whatever you feel that you want to do, and for me was a big fight, and for a lot of people like me, where you're expected to do one thing. And society, society, as much as they love musicians, they also look down at musicians. They don't really respect musicians. The same for like artists, most creative people. And even though the world runs on creativity. So it's kind of that thing of like, if you have a passion for whatever you want to do it, and it doesn't matter what other people say. And that's kind of the philosophy I live by.
Don't you think that it's very important to really also go into the management and administrative education in order to be able to run your own musical career and your own musical business? Do you think that is an important fact to be taken into consideration?
I think definitely. If you want to be a professional, so it's not just like, I like to sing or I like to play guitar, so I do it. You need to transform that into a career, which means you need to know marketing, you need to know your law, especially like music law, for example. You need to know how to run a business, you need to be disciplined because you will be self-employed most of the time. And you find they're very talented musicians, like some of the guys I used to work with. fantastic musicians, but they don't have that side of it. They don't think it's important, and they don't end up going very far. Whereas there are people who are not as talented, and maybe they don't even work as hard, but they have the marketing and, you know, the administration, accounting, all of that is set up. So they're basically operating like a business, and that's what you need to succeed.
Yeah, and this is at the moment what is very important to get into it. How can you become a cultural artistic entrepreneur? You know, and that means to have the opportunity to be created into the business, but to stick to the structure, you know, to become a solid. You were able to sustain yourself financially during your time as a manager of your own career. How old were you when you started?
So when I dropped out of school, I was 17, and it was, of course, a big fight with, especially with my dad and like most of the family. And for me, the one thing I had to prove first was that I can actually make money and survive. And so for the next 2 years after that, most of my time was spent teaching. And of course, teaching, you know, you gain the experience, the reputation, you get paid well, you have your students. From that, with Masika, as Masika started getting more popular, that shifted into the full-time thing. And again, to be able to sustain yourself plus a full big band and orchestra of musicians from performing is quite, I think it's quite impressive. And so for the next 4 years, you know, we made our salaries from performing.
For performing.
And then now, of course, in London, being self-employed, of course, I perform, I arrange music for other people, I record, I produce, all of these different things together. And so I think over the years, as you gain more experience, and of course you learn more things, your value as a musician goes up. I think you need to be really well-rounded. So of course, the as you said, the admin, the marketing, the business is there. But also within what you're doing, you can't just do one thing. As my philosophy of musicians is that if you're a musician, you should be able to sing, play percussion, and then your instrument, and maybe even related instruments. You should be able to write songs, you know, arrange music, play by ear. You should be able to teach, even not as a specialized thing, but you know, you're a well-rounded musician.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we are waiting here for Shan to come back into the, let me get myself, I lost the internet. Connecting, let's see.